Okay, it is 5:45, so we'll go ahead and open the budget hearing for any comments, right? Um, Mr. Holder, do you have any comments you want to share to kick this off?
Sure. I'll just reiterate that as we talked about at the last board meeting, you're required in the state of Kansas to republish any funds where you anticipate that expenditures may exceed the original published budget, which was approved back in September. As we know, the primary reason in special education was a change that KSDE wanted us to make for virtual expenses because we claim categorical aid for a virtual school because they do have special education teachers and service providers as well as paras that provide that instruction. They wanted us to move those expenses into Fund 30 because they're special education expenses. The district had not done that in the past. It had not been our past practice. And so this was something new that KSDE wanted us to do. So in order to be able to accomplish that, we needed to republish this budget. We met the deadline 10 days prior to this meeting. We published that. And part of that requirement is to then have a public hearing. And the last thing I'll mention is just to note that this in no way impacts the tax rate in any form. It is just a matter of following the procedures that the state of Kansas have outlined for amending the budget. So at this time, if any members of the public would like to come forward and speak, this is the time to do so.
Great, thank you. So we'll leave this open until 6 for any comments. So if you're watching this on YouTube later, fast forward a little bit. Yeah, I think we can talk.
Well, just one quick question and clarification, if I can. I think this is appropriate. That also means that the net dollars have not changed.
Oh, correct.
As well. And maybe
you.
I missed that part. I just wanted
Nope.
to.
Mr. Chitwood, I appreciate that. That was actually something that I wanted to mention. So you bringing that up reminds me. If you look at Code 1, which was provided as part of this budget hearing, what you will notice is that in the virtual education line, we have dropped that amount by $2 million. We added $2 million into special education. So the net expenses, there was no change to the budget that was approved in September.
Thank you, Mr. Holder.
Yep.
I will play the music.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Get some pictures afterwards or the.
Well, thank you. I'm Mary Kay Jenkins. Her grandmother. Jake, I worked in our school district for 26 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Want to come back?
Yeah, I think I was high school secretary. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We get home till 5:20. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. That is busy. Oh,
They recognize Mr. Trump.
yeah.
Like there he is.
Is that a line? Yeah.
But they got the little buckets in practice.
Yeah.
As Corbin said, I think you would do what he would.
He's a city boy.
That's right.
It's funny to watch you like. She had her way, make it fun. Really great thing. Yeah. Let's talk about the budget now. Terry, just about budget, you wanna go speak up about it?
Oh, you're not talking about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, so it's nice to push the. No, look around.
That's his story. 5 o'clock is bedtime.
What kind of prize? Peanut. Just say, yeah. I had no idea. I had no idea.
It's all rock.
Just get praised for your morning. I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and close the budget hearing and kick off the regular scheduled meeting. Rachel, if you'll collect roll, please.
Mrs. Horn,
Here.
Mr. Chitwood,
Here?
Mrs. Baker,
Here.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet. Here. Mr. Hull,
I'm here.
Mr. Beecham,
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much. Moving on to approval of the agenda.
Madam President, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other conversation or questions? Okay, Mrs. Henderson, please collect the vote.
Mr. Chitwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet? Yes. Mr. Hull?
Yes.
Mr. Beecham?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Approved.
Thank you so much. And if everybody will please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you so much. We always read our mission and vision. So the mission is to be a school district that engages students to learn, create, adapt, and succeed in an ever-changing world. And our vision is to maintain small town values and empower each student to achieve world-class success. Did we have any public participation?
No cards were presented.
Okay. Consent agenda, approval of consent agenda items. The consent agenda includes approval of the minutes, the clerk's report, the treasurer's report, payroll and claims, personnel, renewal of typing club grades 3 through 12, purchase of supplemental HMH student grammar practice workbooks, approval of contingent contracts with Blazerworks, approval of the 26-27 student handbooks and code of conduct, and last, contracts with Cornerstones of Care.
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented and read.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or concerns? Mrs. Henderson, please collect the vote.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet? Yes. Mr. Hull?
Yes.
Mr. Beecham?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood?
Yes.
Approved.
Okay, moving on to good news, recognitions and announcements. Mr. Williams.
Yes, good evening. So Mr. Peavy is out of town this evening, so I get the honor of doing good news this evening and recognizing Kinsley Rodden. Spring Hill Schools is proud to recognize Spring Hill High School student Kinsley Rodden for her outstanding accomplishments in both powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting. Kinsley has established herself as one of the top strength athletes in Kansas and the nation. She is the 2025 Kansas Class 5A State Powerlifting Champion, holds the Kansas State clean record at 235 pounds, and was recently named a KMBC Hy-Vee Athlete of the Week in recognition of her athletic achievements. In addition to her success at the state level, Kinsley has excelled on the national and international stages. She has represented Team USA in 2 international competitions in the Pan American Championships, competing in Ecuador in 2024 and Mexico in 2025. At the 2025 Youth Pan American Championships, she earned a bronze medal, placing 3rd among some of the top young weightlifters in the Western Hemisphere. This summer, she will once again represent the United States as a member of both the Youth World Team competing in Colombia and the Youth Pan American Team competing in Ecuador. Kinsley's success extends nationally as well. She has earned first place finishes at 2 national level competitions, has placed second in nearly every other national meet she has entered. Her personal best lifts include an 190-pound snatch and a 243-pound clean and jerk. As a member of the national team program, Kinsley is ranked among the top 25 Olympic weightlifters in the United States under the age of 20 across all weight classes and genders. This elite designation provides opportunities to train at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Center in Colorado Springs and work with nationally assigned coaches as she continues to develop her skills. Through her dedication, discipline, and commitment to excellence, Kinsley serves as an outstanding representative of Spring Hill High School and Spring Hill Schools. The Board of Education congratulates Kinsley on her remarkable accomplishments and wishes her continued success as she competes on the world stage and pursues further opportunities in her sport.
You walked up there like you had a speech, Kinsley. You're free to say whatever you want.
Questions?
That's fine.
I have a couple of questions. So do you prefer powerlifting or Olympic lifting more?
I'd say Olympic weightlifting. I think that's my better suit and I've accomplished a lot more in that, so.
And which lift?
I'd say snatch is my favorite lift.
All right.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I've got a question. We just installed a bunch of new weight equipment. Have you gotten to go in and take a look yet? What do you think?
No, I've not. I haven't done much with the high school side of stuff. I'm more of on my club side, and I lift at MNU in Olathe, and so yeah. But
Okay.
I'll definitely have to go take a look.
Check it out. Let
Yeah.
Mr. Williams know.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming out, and all you guys. I know you guys are so proud watching her compete, and I know you represent us so well. So it's really been fun to watch your journey. Which would you prefer, international competition or standing up here to getting this recognition?
Not to be rude, but international.
Same.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
you.
I think probably a group picture.
Yep.
Oh.
You guys go ahead. Okay, one this way and I can sit on the other way. Ready? One, two, three, two. Help, I can't do it. Oh, got it. Here.
That all the pictures?
Thanks, Mom, Dad, and everybody else. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Right.
Okay, up next, June bond update. Mr. Williams.
So good evening. I will give you an update of where we're at with our elementary projects. We are coming close to the finish line when it comes to those three projects, where we're working on the HVAC within Spring Hill Middle School and Spring Hill Elementary School. And then right after that, we'll have Newkirk Novak talk to you about the CT edition and where we're coming in with our recommendations when it comes to the projects. So currently financially, you'll see this every meeting, the budget summary. The only thing I want you to do is keep in mind where it was estimated that the high school was going to come in at 26 million. So just keep that figure in mind. Right now, we're running about 54 million. So we've got about 6 million left over from the current bond. Coming up, hopefully you guys will approve the CTE edition and the Commons expansion bids. So we can get started with that. Mr. Delphi and I will be attending the City of Spring Hill Commission meeting on Thursday night to get the final approval so we can get our permit to get things started there at the high school and move forward with that. Contingency budget, we're still sitting very well with our elementary projects. At the end of May, we carried over 236,867 of expenses. You can see what we spend our money on coming up with the elementary projects. So we have spent a total of $345,894,000 with still remaining $342,234 when it comes to our elementary contingency. I will say because we are getting close to the final, those have been slowing down drastically. So I imagine we'll still have a nice chunk of contingency remaining of our elementary projects moving forward to the end. The building responder system, we've been talking about this for a long time. We finally now have a bid of what it's going to cost us to install the system. As you can see, it's going to be $126,152 to install it. So we are going to spend $129,617 the $300,000 we allotted for the system, building responder system, and we still do not have any tariff costs on any of our materials when it comes to the finances. So let me move this down, sorry. Spring Hill Elementary. So this school is looking really good. All three schools, I will say, are nearing the finish line and looking amazing right now with this one. Spring Hill Elementary, if you walked into the addition, you will see the final coat of paint. You will see the ceiling installed, the drop ceiling with the tiles. all the doors, all the hardware, all the casework has been installed in the classrooms. The railing on the outside has been installed down the steps and the ramp going out to the playground. The basketball goals have been reinstalled out to the playground. So we're coming down to the finish. We do have to lay the flooring. We had some humidity in the room last week, so we didn't lay the flooring last week because of the humidity. This week, the power to Spring Hill Elementary School has been turned off because we're doing a transformer switchover for our HVAC project with Evergy. So right now, Spring Hill Elementary School has no power for this week while we're working with Evergy to do the transformer. So we're going to get the flooring down as soon as we possibly can, get the low humidity and the power back on, and then we'll be wrapping up where we're at with Spring Hill Elementary School and their addition. When it comes to Prairie Creek, so if you've driven by it lately, they just poured the sidewalks around the new addition on Friday. So the sidewalks look good. They're working the dirt this morning when I drove by. They'll finish up with some landscaping there. They'll still be putting in ceiling tiles for the drop ceiling. Getting those taken care of with that. Final coat of paint going in. Then we'll start working on putting the cabinets in, the casework into the classrooms there when it comes to Prairie Creek Elementary. Timber Sage Elementary School, they now have, if I can get this to go down, they have windows installed. All the masonry on the outside has been completed and washed. They have windows installed, so they're doing the sheetrock and the windowsill, going to the windows there. With that, they're working on installing the drop-down ceiling grid, so we can get the tiles put up with that. They're epoxying the bathroom floor that's in one of the classrooms to get that taken care of. And so we're moving really along with Timber Sage. Any questions when it comes to the 3 elementary projects? They're all scheduled to be completed in the middle of July. So we can go through the punch list and get those taken care of. We got our first load of classroom furniture delivered today. Kylie told me the other 2 loads are coming in later this week. So we'll have all the classroom furniture delivered for the elementary projects and ready to go for those.
When do we anticipate letting teachers loose on those rooms? Do we have a date that?
I don't
they're
know if we have a
expected?
we don't have a date off the top of my head. I imagine we can let teachers start going in those rooms the very first part of August when they get back, or maybe
Yeah,
towards the end of July.
just because it's such a brand new space.
yeah.
And it's going to need,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, it needs their love and hanging of stuff and everything else. So
100%
yeah,
it needs their love.
absolutely.
How did She's come out on remaining asphalt space on the playground compared to some of the other schools?
Do you know the question answers to that one? Okay, they remaining asphalt space, like where it cut into the asphalt?
Like, is what's left comparable to what the other elementary?
When it comes to the playground
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I would say it's very comparable. I don't know if you, Kylie, if you want to talk about that.
It's slightly less than the others elementary schools. And we don't have a plan yet to increase that, but it's something we can look into.
Yeah. I like the key word being yet there.
I agree with
Yep.
Mr. Beecham's comments. It's, they
Yep.
had in all fairness, a very large amount of space relative to the other. And now we're kind of going to the
Sure.
other end of the extreme. So
Kylie and I will talk and we'll make a plan and how.
I think that would be great.
Some of that stuff. HVAC contingency, we're sitting very well with the HVAC projects. They're moving along very well. Under contingency was $978,000. You can see we spent $84,759 so far into that contingency. So we have a remaining of $893,750. I tried to outline some of the larger contingencies in past couple Friday updates. This was some duct size changing and duct and electrical updates. Once we got into the ceiling at Spring Elementary, we had to reroute some duct work because of existing piping with that. The material cost went up by 70% since you guys approved the thing. So it's costing us quite a bit to get the rest of the ducting and everything else with that. But we need to keep the project going. I'll give a shout out to Justin Burko from Newkirk, Novak. He is on top of these projects. I'm just telling you, he's on top of these projects. He's overseeing them very well with the crews, making sure things are getting taken care of and everything with that. We are scheduled to replace the HVAC units at Spring Hill Early Learning Academy. the week after the 4th of July. All we're doing is replacing the units there. We don't have to redo the ductwork, which is really nice. So that'll take a week to replace those HVAC units for there. As you can see from the photos, I went up, sorry, I'm going down here. The continuation of demolition, the duct rough in for the Spring Hill Elementary School. If you walked in there now, you can see a lot of the duct work installed in some of the different pods ready to go. Get those taken care of. This week, the big key thing is to get the transformer switched out and electrical hooked back up. For everything when it comes to Spring Hill Elementary. Spring Hill Middle School, so there is a little bit slower than Spring Hill Elementary School because they're actually having to go up on lifts because the ceiling's quite a bit higher than Spring Hill Elementary School, but they still have done a nice job staying on track with everything, getting the existing ductwork ripped out and installing the new ductwork, getting some of the cut-ins cut in to run some of the new ductwork for us with everything. And so they're just doing a really good job with there. Spring Hill Middle School will just be a one-day switchover when it comes to the transformer with that, and that's scheduled for July. We'll shut down power for Spring Hill Middle School for a day to switch over to electrical stuff. Questions on HVAC work?
On the HVAC side, I mean, once these are installed and going, and that's going to be great, but, reality is different once we start getting bodies in there. Have we already looked at when we're going to come back and balance these and make sure they're performing once we've got bodies in there versus clean buildings with doors that open moderately compared to our real life?
Yeah, so we'll have a full test and balance done, obviously before students and staff come back, and then, they'll match all the calculations and airflow and everything that's been, given to us by the engineers. And then we'll basically be, available. Our guys will be available as rooms, we get reports from a teacher or from Kylie, hey, this room feels a little hot. We can have guys available to come in and adjust those.
Yeah, because you get exactly where I'm going, which is when you load and balance a building with nobody in it, it's going to behave completely differently than once we occupy it and put hundreds of tiny humans and some larger humans.
Our crews understand that they'll be back to have to adjust things after testing.
Yeah, and that's part of the process. Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, when it comes to the high school, I showed this to you last time where we're going to have our logistics mapping. If everything goes well Thursday night, which we are anticipating it will, we are scheduled to start putting up the construction fence on Monday around the Spring Hill High School thing. Messages have gone out to the administration, to the coaches, to that road will be blocked off for a while where they put the fencing up down to the lower parking lot. But then it'll be back open again once they get everything taken care of. We're having to move a lot of existing fiber and lines that are going to go underneath that are currently would be underneath the CT addition. So we've been working really closely with those companies, and we have those scheduled to take place on the 7th and the 14th of July. Is that right? 7th and the 6th? Yeah, 7th and the 14th on Fridays to get those lines moved out of the way and relocated. So we're ready to go when it comes to the new addition.
Are we bringing in horizontals on those and putting in new conduits?
Yep.
Did we perchance look at the request that's been out there to run some conduit over to the ball fields so they can have data, since we're paying to deploy a crew already?
So
just out of curiosity.
We didn't do it on this project, but that has been in conversations about something else.
Thank you. Just as long as it's not dropped.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nope, it's not dropped. So. And any questions when it comes to, hopefully the high school will get more updates here throughout the year. Any questions on any of the projects? They're going extremely well.
I didn't have a question on the projects. I was just curious about communication. Like, how are we just using the website to communicate with what's going on and updates, or are we sending out anything?
I've been giving it to the communications department. They put it on the website, the bond update website, and put it in some like our weekly reports, my presentations.
Okay.
Everything. Yes.
Okay.
And then I will give them an updated budget after tonight's meeting when I got done talking to you guys.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Okay, thank
Okay.
you so much. And moving straight into Spring Hill High School CTE addition and commons expansion recommendations.
Yeah, so we had a very successful bid day when it came to bids for our CT addition and commons expansion. Before Spencer Brown visits with you about this, I will say we bid this project as one and not separate. We didn't separate the CTE and the commons. So what this overall price shows is the CTE addition and the commons expansion together. If you wanted to know what it was going to cost to do each one individually, that would be a little bit more difficult for us to show at this time. So what you're seeing together is this whole combination together. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Spencer to talk about this, and then we'll be here to answer any questions you might have.
So this is our bid tab summary sheet that you guys have seen before on previous projects. You've got all of the scopes of work over here on the left. The subcontractors for those scopes of work are here in the middle column, and then you've got your contract prices over here on the right. The number we are looking for approval tonight is the 19,781,000 number. That is for construction costs. Total project budget was 25 million. Right now, with these construction costs plugged in and soft costs, we are at 24.2 million, so about $800,000 under the project budget of 25 million. So bids came in really good. We had a total of, or average 4 bids per scope. Couple of the larger scopes, we had, 5 bids on steel, 6 and 7 on metal panels, roofing, 6 and 8 on plumbing and HVAC. So pretty good coverage on bids. We've got these 2 allowances that you can see here below. One is for temporary HVAC, heating or cooling if needed. And then emergency responder system, kind of similar to the elementary schools. We'll get the testing done and see if that is needed at the high school.
So that's a theoretical number?
Yeah, that is a budget number for the square foot that we have that would total or cover the total school if we needed to do that.
But just high school, that number is additional to what we're doing with the emergency responder on other facilities. So just for clarity's sake.
Yep.
Thank you.
You guys should all look happier. That was good news.
Yeah, no, it was a really good turnout. Yeah, so $800,000 under when we were tracking,
Right.
about $1 million over at our last estimate. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
we're really excited to get going on this one.
What would you attribute that to? Or just people hungry for work?
Yeah, I think it's obviously it's an attractive project, a 30,000 square foot addition. It's in a good bid window where, a lot of subs have filled their bucket for the summer, but they're looking to fill their bucket for fall and 27. So you had some subs that were pretty aggressive at it. And then a lot of bid competition helps that too. Any other questions?
Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.
Moving to 9.03, is it novel or novel? Novel?
No.
Novel? Novel adoption procedures, grades 6 through 12.
Okay, good evening. So we're here to talk to you. I'm with Jolene. I don't know if you know Jolene Rutledge. She is she's now our curriculum specialist in the teaching and learning department for secondary. And she's done some work this past year on putting together a novel adoption procedure. So this is something that we felt we needed for many reasons. This is primarily going to be for our 6th through 12th grade English teachers to use. Because it would apply to things like our core, like novels that we would be using within our curriculum for lit circles or whole class novels. We are passing around a copy of the procedures. It was attached in board docs as well, so you've probably seen it, but thought you might want a physical copy to look at while we talk through it. Mostly because novels don't really fit particularly well within either of the established procedures that we have recently put into place. So we have the new, our core adoption process for instructional materials, and then we have the supplemental, and this is sort of its own standalone. So we wanted to make sure that we had a very solid procedure for this as well, just to create some consistency district-wide and how we're selecting novels. Also to ensure that we do get high quality texts that we will be using and promote transparency with all parties involved. So I'm going to let Jolene talk you through kind of the procedure and what's actually part of this process.
Hello. So part of the developmental process, as I was, when we first started talking about this, what was really important to us is to make sure that whatever procedures we put in place, they kind of work seamlessly with the procedures that we already have in place. So we weren't really looking to make a whole new thing that that was completely separate from the procedures that we have, but something that was more aligned with what we have right now. So that was kind of priority number one. We also wanted to make sure that we had a procedure for ensuring the quality of the material that we're putting in classrooms. When we're looking at core resources, those things have already been vetted for the grade level, but novels really haven't. So we looked at some things that KSDE has provided in regards to text complexity. I attended several professional developments that Greenbush put on to learn how to evaluate the text complexity of a novel, to make sure that what we're looking at is appropriate for that grade level. And then we also kind of asked around other districts in the area just to see what their policies and their procedures look like for novel adoptions, just to see if they had any ideas we wanted to steal. So what we came up with in the end was basically two different options. If you look at your packet, option number 1 is on page 1, and option number 2, I guess. This option 1 is the one that I anticipate will be used the most, and that is just that you would adopt the novel alongside a core resource. So we have an adoption cycle where we're looking at core resources and reviewing our curriculum once every 6 or so years. And the most natural time to review a novel or what novels we're using in class is when you're doing that core resource adoption. A lot of textbook companies actually have novels that are paired with their text. They may provide some materials. So that's a really natural time to do that. So that option 1, really the novel would just kind of follow along with our already existing core instructional resource adoption procedures. It would just kind of be tacked on with that. Option 2 would be in the instance that you're not adopting a core resource right now, like it's in the middle of a cycle or whatever. We do have some upper level courses that are more novel based that this might be appropriate for, or for other reasons. This option actually still mirrors the original core resource adoption process, but it uses your site councils as your outside review committee. So since you don't have an EAC to be reviewing things through. So either way, whichever option you choose, the teams will be completing this proposal form, which is page 2 of your packets. And this is something that I would likely work on with them to help them complete this. The first part is just basic information. What's the novel you want to adopt? What grade level is this for? How does this novel provide instructional depth to your lessons? And then the text complexity, which is ensuring that it is going to have what we need to be at rigor for the grade level, that it's going to be appropriate for that. There's procedures, everything is attached. You can see there's a lot of rubrics that you probably don't want to look at, but kind of extensive, but that's the stuff that I would be going through with them. And then last would be sensitive content. If there's content within the novel that we're kind of concerned about, or that we think that some people might not prefer their children to read, then we would be outlining that there. And then they would also provide an alternate lesson plan or an alternate text for students to read if their parents were to opt them out of that novel. So that's all. Do you guys have any questions about it?
I do. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm still trying to get to what I missed when we did all the other policies around this and kind of what we're plugging. Because these are books just like the media policy that we have. So I'm trying to get to the need that we're filling here that the existing policy doesn't do that this does. Does that make sense?
So are you referring to the library media books that
Well-
policy or the core policy?
Well, we have two policies that we thought were inclusive of every book and movie and media and everything and that, hey, before we bring it into a school and put it into a classroom, it goes through this process. And now we're saying that process doesn't work. We need this new process. And I don't understand. And I literally don't.
Okay, this is actually just would be, it's like we're drilling down. So like this one, you would want to get deeper. So we don't have anything in that but when we evaluate that, this is the evaluation of any novel that we would use. So we're really just bringing you like all novels will go through this process. So we're just wanting to show you that there would be a deeper level that would go through before we would put a novel in a classroom, and they would all have to go through this process. So right now, novels can just be purchased with your ELA adoption. But when you do something like this, you're digging into text complexity, you're digging into like the appropriateness of the content it's just a little bit deeper. And also you sometimes pick those novels in between those big adoptions. So like we do an adoption every year. We go through those pretty lengthy adoptions, but we may find that our honors English 9 class needs to select a couple different novels. We don't have a procedure right now that would dig that deep into novel adoption. So this is actually could align very well with, and we would do it alongside our instructional materials. Or it would be like, we don't have another adoption for ELA for 3 more years, but we need some novels or trade books for some specific books. So this would be in between those things. And we didn't feel that the supplemental went deep enough specifically into what kids would be reading. So we have a supplemental, but it's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just not as detailed. Yeah. We wanted something, and the more that we're learning, so KSD has provided us a great deal of information in just this past year on text complexity, how to determine what DOK level, those kinds of things. So we're taking what we've learned and the information the state has given us and applied it to a new procedure for ourselves. Just to keep things more consistent, things that we did not have prior to this year. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
It kind of does, but, and then kind of gonna go the other way, which is, so I'm going to go ahead and say it out loud. So in a way, this is somewhat saying that our library media policy isn't as stringent as it should be.
I think
And I don't think it's trying to say that directly. Don't get me wrong, but the review.
Libraries are completely different and they work under a completely different policy. These would actually be used in class as core material. So that's why they go more with the core material. This is kind of like an addendum to the instructional resource adoption that we have. We just were more comfortable having a very targeted one towards novels.
This is mostly geared toward whole class novels. So these aren't choice novels that students have chosen themselves. This is like, I teach the 8th grade and we are all reading The Outsiders together. So before I adopt something that I'm asking all of my kids to read, we want to make sure that the rigor is where it needs to be, that the text complexity is where it needs to be. And we want to make sure that like we've kind of vetted it and we think it's appropriate for that grade level.
That's where I was trying to get to. And that was,
Yeah.
Since it is a mandated text,
Yeah.
we're going to hold it to an even higher level of scrutiny that we already do.
Yes.
By the way, everybody, we already scrutinize things before they go in.
Correct.
That's where I was trying to get to with all this.
Yeah, we just felt novels needed more. So that is why we have.
Now I feel like I understand. Thank
So
you.
will the current novels that we're using go through this process again, or
The current novels that we're using they've already been through a process and been board approved.
But we have not purchased new novels in a long time, and we wanted
That's part of the
something that'll,
reason.
yeah.
Okay, and so that's what we're getting ready to do is we're going to
Yes.
buy new novels. And so this is the process that we're gonna put these books through that. And when are you planning to buy these new novels or?
Honestly, we're looking at a couple, we have a new Honors English 9 class that will probably need a couple new novels. And then largely it'll just be when we do our new ELA adoption in 2 years.
29?
3 years. We wanted to have this all set up and because we haven't purchased new novels in a really long time. So if a teacher or a PLC comes to us and says, we feel like these are no longer really filling the need for our kids, we want to have a very set and outlined process that they will go through and they know what it is ahead of time. So
From my perspective, just because it's so hard to go to so many different places to find the right answer, my personal opinion is if this is going to be a process that is an extension of core curriculum, it should go ahead and be part of that policy and be embedded in it. So it is comprehensive of what the board's policy is on documents is my personal feeling. And kind of the answer that you gave and elucidating between the two different criteria, kind of needs to be a component of that. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, are you wanting us, there was a choice there, an option 1 and an option 2. Where did that go?
So those are both.
Is that something that?
Both of those would apply because most of the time they're going to be doing it when they do a core. Yeah. So most of the time it's a PLC or a team who's asking for a new novel would probably be reviewing that as they are looking at their new core resources or reviewing new core resources. So both of those options are on the table because sometimes we have to adopt new novels when we're not doing a core resource adoption. And so that option 2 was created so that there would still be like procedures that mirrored what we do with the core. If we did it with the core, just uses the site council as your outside review committee instead.
I love that idea.
Yeah, these are options we're looking for. We're either going to pick one or the other. It would depend on when the team asks for them, whether we would use 1 or 2. But either way, these documents would be filled out for us. So we would have all the information and it would be vetted.
Have we talked, because the site councils are kind of the building principal purviews, do they feel like they're going to be able to accomplish that in their site council meetings and all the other business they're conducting?
That's kind of, we have previously done novel adoptions before is through our site councils.
I hear you, and they've kind of taken that time and owned that space for covering metrics and a whole bunch of other things. And it's a tough lift to get people in there already to participate. I just want to make sure there's assent and consent, and they're on board.
Yeah.
For on the site council, since site council is an advisory committee, would they simply be making a recommendation and it's still okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily their decision, but it's a recommendation.
Yeah, they would fill the role of the EAC, which is the team that kind of reviews and just gives us feedback. They fill out a little rubric. When we do our core instructional materials, they have like 30 days to review all of those materials and provide input. That is the committee that would be replaced by the site council if they were needing to do it off cycle, like in option 2.
Okay. And then John, to your comments on policy, are you asking that it be included in IF right here, textbook and instruction materials? I just want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, I think that's my opinion, and I didn't remember the numbers. I think that's the most appropriate place for it to be, but that's a feeling, not a.
I don't think these are.
Sorry, can I chime in real quick? What they're asking for is a change to the procedure. So you adopted a couple things. You have your 2 board policies, which really do not need to change. Those policies cover everything related to curriculum. What they're asking about is adding this to the procedures So that document that you approved with the procedures for the selection of instructional materials, this would now be added to that as a piece specific to novels. So I don't think that you need to actually change your board policy IF. It already says that anything that's purchased for that curriculum in the classroom has to go through the board. Does that make sense?
I'm gonna have to reread it.
I think you're covered policy-wise, but what you would want to do is take that procedures for the selection of instructional materials and add this novel adoption process to that so that it's like an amendment to that procedures document. Sorry, I just can't help myself but chime in.
They were fighting through it. They were.
So great. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah. So yes, like earlier, this would be like an addendum to the one that we have been using for the last 2 years. So if you want it added just as part of that, we can do that. But that is not actually listed in the board.
Yeah, no, and I
policy.
think where we ultimately got to is it's going to need to be part of
Yeah.
the language,
Added to the
not
large-
necessarily in its entirety, but it's and then this happens, and then the earth cooled, and then the dinosaurs roamed, and then
Yeah.
we reviewed novels, right? Because that's kind of the way the policy reads. Sorry.
Hopefully in process, it moves faster than the creation of the world.
It doesn't feel like.
I was gonna say, I was kind of playing to the peanut gallery with that one because it's a long process and I appreciate that we did it and it's transparent for patrons and that's where I just want to, that's
But yes,
ultimately where I'm trying to get back to is
Yeah.
I don't think you're not trying to be transparent. I just want to be easy for me to read, to be like, no, you go read this.
The goal is actually to be very transparent. So if you feel like this is all, you approve this, we can just add it to the already approved core instructional materials. That's fine.
And this is a process that did not exist before.
Not this
Two-
way.
Two novels. It was not written
Correct.
out, right? It was an assumed.
There were processes, the novels were approved by the board. It was just a very different process. And we wanted something that was very well articulated, that aligned with what we already had in place and that we felt really confident that was going through a rigorous procedure. So,
Thank you.
yep.
So one comment I will say really quick before you guys sit down. I think it's great. I like all of the text complexity measures and the sensitive content and all that. I wish we would do that for all of our materials that we are wanting to use in the district.
I took
We-
a lot
we
of
do.
English teachers to that PD, so they know how now.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say,
Those are actually things, if you if you look at our evaluation rubric, those are things we do look at, and we have the EAC review. So looking at like sensitive material, is it age appropriate? Is it the complexity you would expect? It's just when you're looking at something like a novel, it goes a lot deeper than an average textbook. So that's why you'll see more of that for a novel than you would for like your biology book. But those overarching topics, we do evaluate that when we look at them.
Yeah, and this is a comment. I don't think it's a question to be answered, but feel free to say whatever. Kind of my question and what if world is, okay, so a novel gets proposed, but then rejected, but we already have it in our libraries. Kind of now what? It didn't pass stricter scrutiny, so it doesn't go in the classroom, but, and again, you get where, I'm trying to bring up the potential of.
Well, there's a difference again between choice reading and what we would assign in a classroom. So there could be a number of reasons we wouldn't select something to be a whole class. And it could be, we don't think the rigor is high, we don't think this is high enough for this grade, but it doesn't mean a student wouldn't go check it out of the library and think it was a fun read. So there's different reasons we may or may not select something for a whole class novel that doesn't make it a bad book or something that's.
But you get where I'm going. It's just the optics of it.
Correct correct me if I'm wrong here, but I wanted to give an example. If the Cat in the Hat is in our high school library, right there, it's perfectly acceptable to be there. But we probably wouldn't want to use that book for honors dining.
Probably not.
I was going to use the example of Captain Underpants because kids love to read that, but it's probably not appropriate for instruction.
Right.
Okay, any
right.
other questions? Okay, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Up next, I think you guys are staying put. Follett Resource Manager? Follett?
Yeah. Okay. So Courtney and I are going to talk to you a little bit about an inventory system that we want to take a look at. So I'll let her start.
So we are looking at getting Follett Resource Manager, which is basically an instructional materials inventory system. Currently, Follett, it does have our library management system that is completely separate than what we were asking for this. This is specifically for our curriculum and resources, both between special services and in teaching and learning. Currently, those are all managed in-house through spreadsheets. And as our district has grown, we have more buildings, we have more resources. The management of that is just becoming trickier to manage it all through a Google Sheet versus having a system that will allow us to really track all of those materials.
And so I have actually used this before, so I wanted to talk a little bit about it, but it is really nice to have this centralized asset tracker. So we can keep track then of everything from textbooks to special education equipment that we check out to buildings or we check out to specific students, and it just keeps track of all of that for us. It also helps with things like audits. We know where everything is located, we can get it back. The nice piece about this too is that we ourselves will put barcodes on anything that we want to barcode. So if we purchase new social studies books, we barcode them all, and then we can easily scan them and send them, and we know who they're checked out to, which chunks of books go to which building and which students they're all checked out to, helps us keep track of those things, keeps track of things like the life cycle management of things, like how long have we used this? Or maybe for Courtney specifically, things like how many students have used this over the years? Is it missing any pieces? It really helps you keep track of everything that you've purchased that is an instructional resource. And it really helps us, it'll help us a lot save money over time, which you could speak more to that.
So currently, aside from just, books, those type of materials, within the special education realm, we have a lot of other equipment that is used, sensory equipment, physical therapy equipment. And right now, again, managing those things, it's kind of, okay, how long have we had this? Are we needing a better idea of upping some of our materials, upping some of our equipment for kids? So having this system will just kind of keep all of that in line and help us better track kind of where it's been, who's been using it. Is it being requested frequently enough that we need to look at purchasing additional without kind of just going back through email spreadsheets and trying to figure out where things have been and how often they've been used?
Yeah. Ultimately, the goal is to save money because we won't be repurchasing things that are actually somewhere in our district that we cannot locate, or thinking like, how many of each thing do we have? We do try to shift things from building to building when possible instead of just purchasing new things. So as like the number of students changes, we try to transfer those to another building if we have a classroom set of something. But again, spreadsheets is only as good as like what we can get and put in there, where this makes it very easy. This also will help us keep track of like the things that we purchased through our Perkins grant and other things like that that we have to keep an inventory for. So there's a lot of things like that that this will just really help us with. It's pretty seamless. We know this company, we like this company. We do currently use it for our libraries. So this product is completely separate, but it is housed by the same company. So we know that they're really good to work with. There's a whole implementation plan. Again, this would be something that would be shared between our two departments. So it will be our people that will work on this. The timeline, the goal would be that we could purchase this hopefully next month. And then Follett will work with us to build our platform within 90 days. And they will do so based on what we tell them we want to do with it. Then they will provide training in the fall for our two departments. So it'd be us, any of our coordinators, curriculum specialists, our administrative assistants, and instructional coaches would be trained on this. And then what we'll do in the spring and the summer, because it's going to take time to get to that point, starting in January then through the spring and summer, we will begin barcoding. They will send us the barcodes. We will then barcode all of our materials that we want to put those on, starting with our newest ones that we would have delivered here. And then we'll begin entering them into inventory as we are barcoding. So we could run reports and just keep track of all of our materials. So we like the system a lot. It would really help us to organize things. So kind of just sharing a little bit about that with you. And yeah. Do you have any questions for us about it?
Yeah, everybody. Number one, I love the getting out of the spreadsheets and making what we do more efficient. That super awesome. It warms my heart. It really does, literally.
Us too. I agree.
And I say that, but I still have to ask the next question, which is, we just did an entire district asset inventory and spent, I don't remember, $50,000 or whatever to do it. So my question is not really towards you, but we have lots of assets to keep track of. Do we not already have a system, and or can we use this system for other purposes? And again, I know you won't be able to answer that. It's more for the gang in the back and Dr. Luttrell, which is, we have a lot of assets, and
I can answer a little bit. Like, I believe the one that we had purchased before was more for like our very large, like physical items, like our capital purchases and things like that. This is not for that. This is really for our instructional materials.
The people are moseying up who I've.
Yeah, come in. You're welcome to come answer.
Yeah. I appreciate your bravery, gentlemen.
The asset management system that we had tracks furniture, all sorts of stuff, equipment throughout the entire district. So it's not just large capital items. It's pretty much every little widget and everything we have within the school is what we're tracking. So. Yep.
Well, and so, I mean, that ultimately gets to my question, which is a specialized piece of whichever widget, whether it's a book or a slide or a piece of foam or a dais, you know, the attributes, the data that you track with that are pretty darn static. And so do we already have a solution that does what they want? Or do you get where I'm going, which is, we're one great big district with all of this stuff?
The short answer is no, we don't have one that does everything.
Okay.
As the tech department, we manage everything through our help desk system, because inventory is attached to tickets that they're worked on, service requests. As for a district-wide asset system, we don't really have something that covers all the bases.
Yeah.
The one that they're looking for is pretty much, I don't want to say ubiquitous, but it's a very common one for what they're trying to accomplish, which is classroom materials and stuff like that.
Sure, but you get the road I'm marching down. The road I'm marching down is, it sounds like while they're moving out of spreadsheets, we're still going to have 3 or 4 or 5 different systems to conceptually manage the exact same concept, which is, I have something, I want to know it exists, and I wanted to know whom is responsible for it. That's pretty universal in asset tracking.
Sure, 100%.
So I'm trying to get to, why do we need 3 solutions for the same task?
Yeah, I think what you're asking, Mr. Chitwood, is valid, and that's something we can check into, because I do think what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is the platform that we do our asset management, do they have a platform that's capable of doing the same thing for the curriculum side? as maybe for the tech side. And that's like much of our student database systems, like our, whether it be, whatever system we use for a student management system, Skyward, they have certain modules. So we just need to look to say, okay, are there modules available within the asset management or maybe in Follett that does big ticket items? Because yes, you are correct. The fewer platforms you can use definitely is more user friendly. And that's something we can check into. And we can do that. But as we said, sometimes a lot of those platform systems, they just vary by, they find their own little niche and that's where they go. But we can check into that for you definitely.
I just want to point out, we don't really reduce because we still use this for library resources.
Correct. That's what I was
We're
gonna
not-
say we went with a vendor we already have a contract with. So we're getting a pretty good discount on this. It's about $8,000 a year. But it also is one that is easily accessible to those of us that need it. And we will do our own inventory, where the other one, I believe, is like in every 5 or 6 years, they come in and do this. Like it's outside people come in. We don't do that. This is managed by us for us. So it's a much more hands-on and it's focused it is designed to be focused for instructional materials. So it is a different concept with your materials. So.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. I mean, you cut to the heart of where I'm getting to. So.
So when the novel process, right, then the novels themselves would be tracked in this?
Yeah, they would be barcoded and scanned into the system.
Any
Okay.
other?
Do you guys have any more questions for us?
Anything? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, finance report. Mr. Holden.
All right, good evening, everyone, again. Tonight, there's a couple different items I want to cover. We'll start with our monthly report, but we won't spend quite as much time probably as we normally do, partially because May is the month right before the big month of June. And big month, not only from an expense side, but also a revenue side. And so in the state of Kansas, that means your final audited legal max, your final payments for bond and interest, capital outlay. And so we'll run through this, and obviously if there's any questions, we'll entertain those. But then there's also another item, the budget letter that we received from Johnson County, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes going through that tonight as well, because there's a lot of good information as it pertains to our budget for FY27. So looking at May, you can see really our trends in operating and sped. Obviously, sped will change with the budget amendment. So when you see this in June, you'll see estimated revenues increase as well as estimated expenses. In general and LOB, you'll see those drop a little bit, mainly due to the audited amounts that came through. There's a variety of things, but you always estimate high in your budget. And so your final legal max is going to lower those dollar amounts. I did want to just mention debt service. Just received a large payment in June. So when you see that, we'll exceed revenues in debt service. Capital outlay, the same thing. We'll exceed those revenues. Bond, we've discussed that. Just tremendous investment returns that we've still been able to realize in our bond fund. You couple that with the good news tonight with the bids package for the CTE expansion as well as the Commons expansion. A lot of good stuff that's happening around that bond fund, right? From the revenue side as well as the expense side. Nutrition services through May. So when you look at revenue through May, we won't receive a lot of student revenue, although we do still, there's things that trickle in the month of June that will get posted to those student accounts, but primarily it's going to be our payment from KSDE for meals served in May, because you're always a month behind You submit that information, and then you get paid in the future month. So we will get some more revenue on nutrition services. Expenses for nutrition services fund will be primarily in payroll and benefits. But again, not a lot of those will hit after June because we don't have many expenses like July and August payroll that are part of FY26 like we do in teaching and learning. Special reserve continues to just perform really well, knock on wood. Again, that's our medical claims portion. I recently saw the May numbers and they're tracking well. So those will be included in our June statement. So in a very good position there. And then overall, our miscellaneous grants, special liability, special assessment, and student materials will add to the revenues there a little bit. Probably do some transfers to make sure that we keep an adequate amount in student materials, as well as potentially miscellaneous grants. We'll see some more revenue there in June. Expenses for the most part, we'll see a little bit more obviously come through, a little bit in special liability, some in student materials. There's always some grant expenses, but for the most part, we've wrapped up most of those through May. Current fund balances, bottom left, obviously we're still tracking well. Those percentages will become final in June. Shooting for that second July board meeting. July is always a little tricky. In Kansas, it is the expectation of the state that any invoice in June is paid in that prior fiscal year. So for example, if you have an invoice dated June 25th that you receive July 15th, right, you're paying that ASAP because you're trying to close your fiscal year, but technically that's the FY26 expense. And so that's why historically we'll do a preliminary look at that second July board meeting, and then we'll come back in August at that first July board meeting and clean up anything that happened previous to that. So not a lot, but there is a method to why, we always ask our buildings and then our departments to stop purchasing, or make sure that if they're purchasing something that we can receive it by June 30th and get that invoice and preferably pay that bill. Invariably, there's always a few things though, but generally in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be a huge dollar amount. Any questions on the May finance report? All right, then if we could go to the second attachment. This is something that we received from Johnson County. And we received it last, about a week and a half ago. And there is a lot of information that's contained on this page that is very relevant to when we set our budget. And so I wanted to walk through it tonight. It has some implications obviously for R&R because it gives us what the baseline would be for revenue neutral. It also essentially shows you what your final AV is, assessed valuation. So, and there's some changes this year from what we thought we were going to receive in March. And so I wanted to walk the board through that. So what you see up top is in the top section, the real estate. This obviously comes from Johnson County. We're not necessarily unique in the state because there are many districts that sit in more than one county. But the main difference that I learned is Johnson County compiles all the information. So basically they're receiving information from Miami County and then they're putting it together. And so Johnson County is who we file everything with for our budget documents. So, but what you see up top there is Johnson County and Johnson County only. All right. When you go down to the middle section, you'll notice it shows your revenue neutral rate. All right. but those double asterisks that say includes Miami County is very important. And what you have to do is go over to the right in that current year estimated assessed value used for R&R calculation. And what that does is it actually combines Miami County and Johnson County together. And so we look at it, we're looking at this. It helps us figure out what Miami County did, what Johnson County did. And then we receive a budget report from both counties that then verifies that information. So remember that, so the first one there, the general rate, that is the rate that's 20 mills that everyone must levy. The revenue neutral rate is shown, but remember, you don't have an option to take the revenue neutral rate. It's going to be 20 mills regardless, because that's what the state requires. Why is that amount lower than the next two, the supplemental general and the bond and interest? It's lower because in the general rate, that's where the residential relief is given at the $75,000 level for all homes in Kansas. All right, so that's where that gets applied. And so that's where the value for that calculation is only the 568 million as opposed to the two below, which are 648 million approximately. The fourth one is capital outlay. So why is that higher? All right, obviously that's over 677 million as opposed to the other two that are the same, then obviously much higher than general. That's because capital outlay is not abated in the state of Kansas. And so if something is built, it's not always commercial. We actually have a residential in Spring Hill, but it's commonly commercial property that is abated. But the capital outlay portion, the 8 mills, is not. And so that's why you will see those numbers always higher. I mean, not always, but in most school districts, it's going to be higher. That's your highest AV is in capital outlay. All right, so let's look at these numbers. How do they compare to last year? And I'm going to stay in this, the middle section there. And so the first three areas are general, our supplemental general. Sorry, let me back up. What does supplemental general mean? Well, we know that's LOB. Sometimes that's LOB is referred to as a supplemental general fund. But for us, that also includes our COLA, which is cost of living below, our extraordinary growth, our special assessment, our supplemental general, which is actually called that name, and that's it. All right. So those four actually all fall under that supplemental general category. Bond and interest is a standalone because that's our debt service. It's what we use to pay our bonds. And then capital outlay is a standalone as well. So you've got three that are standalones, and then the other supplemental general is actually a catch-all for those four other funds. So general, supplemental general, bond and interest went up 6.9% approximately as it compares to last year. Capital outlay as it compares to last year went up 10.8%. Why? Well, Dr. Luttrell and I attended a meeting in early March. Johnson County, the initial AV that they gave us was just over 10.4%. All right. Not just for capital outlay, but for the other funds as well. What happened? And we knew that this was a possibility. What happened is the Walmart facility, the plant, started their abatement this year. And so there's really two things that were happening at once. Last year, they were assessed at a certain value, partially assessed, in my words, and they chose not to start their abatement, which is within, that is perfectly fine for them to do. But essentially, we captured all of that assessed value. This year, that assessed value was more, but they started the abatement. The abatement is 50% of that value on those three funds, on general, supplemental, general, bond, and interest. Okay? And so the impact of that is it dropped our overall AV increase to just under 7% in those areas, but our capital outlay actually went up and actually was a little bit over what that preliminary number was from Johnson County in March. So single digits is honestly, we're not really used to that. But I would anticipate that as we move into FY28 with construction continuing, I think we've got a very good chance of returning back to closer to double digits for FY28. But it will have a little bit of an impact this year. All right, let's just to dive a little bit deeper into those numbers. Miami County overall increase in AV was about 2.4%. All right. That was the total AV increase. Of that 2.4%, about 35% of that total number consisted of new construction. So overall in Miami County, existing properties, now again, I always have to, a reminder, this is in the aggregate. So if I live in Miami County, all right, Mr. Chitwood lives in Miami County, we don't always get the same AV increase. All right. His may be more or less, mine may be more or less. So I'm speaking in the aggregate. But the aggregate increase outside of new construction is actually going to be less than 2%. But new construction is factored into that. So we move to Johnson County. Johnson County overall, 7.6%. Okay. So you combine those two numbers, that's how we get to the 6.9, because Johnson County carries, that's the largest portion of our AV. But of that total, over 81% of that was comprised of new construction. Okay. So again, overall, a 7% increase in the three funds is really, it's not bad. It's just not what we've necessarily been used to, in the last 5 or 6 years. So, but I would anticipate in FY28, again, primarily driven by new construction. You can see that in the numbers that we've got, in particular from Johnson County. I think that number will get closer to double digits. Last thing I wanted to mention is as it relates to R&R. All right. This is just a point, just a FYI, point of information for you. We will look to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Just a reminder, revenue neutral is a calculation that's done every year that looks at exactly what your revenue was from the year prior, and if you kept it the same for the following year. It does not contemplate whether or not you're a growing district, and it does not contemplate inflation. So that's a very difficult number, in particular when you're in a growing district and you also have bond and interest that you're responsible for paying. But one thing that is noticeable, R&R, and I just wanted to throw this out there. If you add up the R&R and what I do, and that's the number that starts with the 18.716. Well, to me, it's nice that they give us that number, but it's irrelevant because that number will be 20 regardless of what we decide to do. But if you add those numbers up, you make the general rate a 20 and you add those up, it's 63.628. Compare that down at the bottom to the 66.803, the total underneath the funds. That's just a difference of 3.175. So we're 3.175 mils above revenue neutral. All right. Compare that to last year. The revenue neutral calculation, we were 5.458 mils above revenue neutral. So the impact of that, should be when those notices go out, obviously it will show an increase, but it's on a percentage level, again, in the aggregate, but by and large, it's not going to be as high of percent increase as when it's reflected on the revenue neutral rate form. So why? Because last year our AV increase was over 12%. This year it's just under 7%. So you're seeing that impact on the revenue neutral rate calculation. It's a lot of information, but hopefully, to me, it's valuable. Obviously, being in this position and going through this now at this point in my first year, because I was still on the outside looking in at this point a year ago. So it helps me process through it, and hopefully it's good information for you all to have as well. Any questions on that?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Holder. I want to make sure I understood, because we have that commercial entity that has elected their tax abatement. I think the read I was getting is monies that we've got in the last year, we're going to be net down. I didn't quite read it right.
Yeah, no. So,
Do you get,
yeah, I can clarify. We're not net down anything. It's just the projected assessed value increase, instead of being 10%, is now 6.9% in totality, because the abatement started on a significant commercial property.
Any other questions for Mr. Holder?
That was very well explained and thorough. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Up next, we have 3 action items to get through. The first, 11.1, approve the bid for completion of the CTE addition and Commons expansion at the Spring Hill High School.
Madam President, I move to approve the bids for completion of the CTE addition and Commons expansion at Spring Hill High School as presented.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or conversation? Okay, Mrs. Henderson, please click the vote.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet? Yes. Mr. Hole?
Yes.
Mr. Beecham?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Approved.
Up next, 11.02, approval of the 27-28 district calendar. And it
Everybody's,
did have all the updates. It had the
I
half
just-
days,
I agree.
Yeah.
Matt, you're good. Madam President, I move to approve the 27-28 district calendar.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or conversation?
I do have one quick question on that one. We labeled it half day, which is exactly what we said. Is it intended to be
We
early
labeled it,
dismissal?
okay, so we labeled the last day, half day. The first day of school, I think we labeled as 2-hour early release.
Oh, it says half day.
With Commons next to it, 2-hour early release.
No, it says half day.
It's a 2-hour early release on the very first day of school. Get them through the lunch process. Once we get them fed, we'll get them out for that day on that. So I must have got the wrong copy from Mr. Peavy. I apologize, because when I sent one to you guys on a Friday update, my recommendation was the 2-hour early release on that very first day of school, and get them, feed them lunch, and then let them dismiss. And then on the very last day of school, we'll do a half day where they'll actually be home before lunch.
So with that, I move to amend the motion by modifying the calendar and replacing half day on August 16th and half day on May 25th with 2-hour.
Just the August date.
Just the August date with 2-hour early release.
I will if I turn on my microphone, I will second the motion of updating and moving for approval of August 16th as a 2-hour early release.
Right.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second. Any other conversation or questions?
Good catch. Good catch.
Okay, Mrs. Henderson, please collect the vote.
Mr. Beecham,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet. Yes. Mr. Hull,
Yes.
approved.
Thank you.
So
That was complicated.
That was approving the amendment to the motion. We still need to vote now on the amended motion, correct?
I believe we do.
Yes.
I think that covers the calendar, but if you want to take another vote on it, that's completely fine.
It's better to be double sure.
Let's
We're
double vote.
going to do it twice.
Love it.
Go
Let's do
ahead.
it.
Okay, well then I think I need a motion or do
No,
the motion?
We're on what is now the amended motion, so yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mrs. Henderson, will you please collect the vote?
Okay, so just I'm clear. For the amending the agenda, the motion was made by Ted, seconded by John. For this one, it's moved by John and seconded by Anna.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet. Yes. Mr. Hull,
Yes.
Mr. Beecham,
Yes.
approved.
Okay, and last, 11.03, approve amended 25-26 budget.
I'm going to move to approve 11.03 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other conversations around that? Okay, Mrs. Henderson, please collect the vote.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet. Yes. Mr. Hull,
Yes.
Mr. Beecham,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
approved.
Okay, board work calendar.
This is our last meeting for our fiscal year, except for, so our board work calendar is complete, except for the fact that we do have a special work session that had already been scheduled for a week from tonight at 6 p.m. And I think, we have several routine topics to talk about that, but then we'll pick up our full board work calendar once again, starting in July. That'll have a lot of our annual things throughout the year, as well as business items that we know are going to come up and which should be ready to be posted in time for our reorganization meeting on July the 13th.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And superintendent report.
Just a general, just some general statements. Summer around the campus does seem a little bit quieter, because we don't have 4,500 students and staff every day, that are doing their essential roles, but there's still a lot happening across our campuses. Our custodial and maintenance crews, as Kylie and Mark talked earlier, as our operations team, they were behind the scenes working hard, with the routine summer cleaning, the general repairs, as well as some of our outside of our bond projects, facility projects that are underway to make sure that our buildings are ready for the new school year. So again, shout out to everybody in that regard. We also come by many of our parking lots throughout the day, especially at the high school. You'll see that we have a lot of people on campus, a lot of students, from the younger ones, because our coaches are doing campus, or younger ones, to our older students, through their weightlifting and their workouts, as everyone's preparing, for our fall activity season, which somehow we all know is not going to be that far away from us. Summer is also an important time for planning for our directors, our administrative team. We will have our principals back, at the end of July, but we have to make sure that we've got, our plans in place for the upcoming school year. And I just want to again take time to thank everyone, from our staff at the district office, to our staff at the schools, with our principals, to our parents, with our students, making sure that they're doing what they need to do this summer and preparing for our upcoming school year. But again, it takes a team effort to have a great school district, and all of our data, whether we look at academic data, whether we look, at the return on investment that we get for the resources that we are paying for in the classroom with our staff, it shows that in every aspect, we are definitely getting a strong return on investment and meeting our mantra of excellence every day. So again, a shout out to everybody, but there's a lot going on even in the summer, and we will be ready in August to welcome everybody back. That's my superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you so much. And last item for the night is an executive session.
Madam President, I'm going to move the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel to protect the privacy interest of unidentifiable individuals under COMA. Those to be in session include the Board of Education members and administrators as requested.
Yeah, does that include the board clerk if we need her for a second?
And administrators as requested, yeah.
Okay,
She's a
Just in
officer
case.
of the board.
Okay.
It's an official position.
Thank you.
The executive session to begin at, we've got to do conference call, so 10 minutes. So 7:35 with open meeting resuming at
20 minutes, 20 minutes?
7:50 at this place.
Perfect.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other conversation or questions? Mrs. Henderson, please collect the vote.
Mr. Chitwood?
Yes.
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mrs. Coleman Martinet?
Yes.
Mr. Hole?
Yes.
Mr. Beecham?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes,
Approved.
thank you. And Okay. We have a motion
Second.
and a second.
Okay, Mrs. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Beecham,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Chitwood,
Yes.
approved.
Okay, we're adjourned.